Before he became a legend, he was invisible. Before crowds shouted his name, people ignored him. This story does not start with glory. It starts with rejection. Stay with me, because this first part explains everything that comes later. If you understand this beginning, you will understand the man. Napoleon Bonaparte was born in 1769 on a small island called Corsica. At that time, Corsica did not feel fully French. Napoleon did not feel French either. From the beginning, he felt different. He spoke French with a strong accent. Other children laughed at him. He was poor, quiet, angry. He learned very early that the world does not give respect for free. A strong thought followed him. I must prove myself. As a boy, Napoleon was sent to France to study at military schools. He was smaller than others. He had old clothes. He had no powerful family to protect him. Many students came from rich backgrounds. Napoleon did not. He spent most of his time alone. He read books, he studied maps, he imagined battles. While others played, he planned. A useful phrase to remember is, "I learn while others rest." Teachers noticed something unusual. Napoleon was not friendly, but he was focused. He did not talk much, but when he spoke, he was serious. He learned math, artillery, and strategy. War was not just violence to him, it was structure, order, control. Another useful phrase fits here. Knowledge is power. Inside, Napoleon carried a quiet fire. He felt insulted by the world, but also chosen by it. He believed he was meant for more. He wrote letters about destiny and greatness. Even before his first real battle, he saw himself as someone important. This belief did not come from success, it came from hunger. Hunger creates ambition. When the French Revolution began, everything changed. The old system broke. Kings lost power. Chaos opened doors. For most people, this time was dangerous. For Napoleon, it was an opportunity. He was young, trained, ready. History was moving fast, and he wanted to move faster. At this point, Napoleon was still a nobody. No titles, no fame, no army of his own. Just a sharp mind, deep resentment, and one clear goal: rise. This is where his real story begins. Useful phrases. I must prove myself. I learn while others rest. Knowledge is power. I feel different. I want more. Part 2. Rise through war. War does not create people like Napoleon. It reveals them. When France fell into chaos after the revolution, many officers were confused or afraid. Napoleon was not. He saw disorder as space, space to move, space to rise. While others waited, he acted. Remember this idea: chaos creates chances. Napoleon was still young, but he understood one thing very clearly. Power belongs to those who act fast. In 1793, he got his first real chance. France needed help in a military crisis. Napoleon stepped forward. He used artillery in a new, smart way. He placed cannons where others did not. His plan worked. The enemy was defeated. People noticed him for the first time. From that moment, his rise was fast. Napoleon was promoted quickly. He became a general at a very young age. Soldiers respected him because he stayed close to them. He walked among them. He shared danger with them. He spoke simply and directly. This built trust. A strong phrase fits here. Soldiers follow strength and clarity. Napoleon did not fight like old generals. He moved fast. He surprised enemies. He attacked when they felt safe. His armies were smaller but better organized. He believed speed was more important than size. He said, "I can lose men, but not time." Another useful sentence: speed wins wars. Victories followed one after another. Italy, Austria. Enemy after enemy fell. Newspapers wrote his name. People started to talk about him. Napoleon understood the power of image. He wrote reports about his own victories. He controlled how people saw him. This was not only war, this was communication. Remember this phrase: control the story. Inside, his confidence grew. Success fed his belief in destiny. He began to trust himself more than anyone else. Orders came from him. Decisions stayed with him. He did not ask permission. He took responsibility. This attitude made him powerful, but also dangerous. Still, at this stage, the world was opening for him. Napoleon was no longer invisible. He was becoming a symbol, a young general who brought order through war. The people admired him. The leaders feared him. He was rising fast, and he was not planning to stop. Useful phrases. 1. I act fast. 2. Chaos creates chances. 3. Soldiers trust me. 4. Speed wins. 5. I control the story. Power changes people slowly. Napoleon did not wake up one day and decide to be emperor. Step by step, power came closer to him, and step by step, he reached for more. This part is important because here ambition turns into control, and control turns into destiny. France was tired. After years of revolution and war, people wanted stability. They wanted order. The government was weak and divided. Napoleon saw this clearly. He believed the country needed a strong hand, and in his mind, that hand was his. A strong thought guided him. If no one leads, I will. In 1799, Napoleon made his move. He did not attack with soldiers, he attacked with strategy. Politics instead of cannons. He used fear, confusion, and timing. The government fell. Napoleon took power quietly but firmly. Many people did not even resist. They hoped he would bring peace. Another useful phrase fits here. Power comes to those who take responsibility. At first, Napoleon called himself First Consul. It sounded temporary, modest, but his power was real. He controlled the army, he controlled the laws, he controlled France. Step by step, he removed limits. People supported him because life felt more stable. Roads improved, laws became clear. France felt strong again. Success created trust. Then came the moment that changed everything. In 1804, Napoleon crowned himself emperor. Not a king chosen by God, not a ruler approved by others. He placed the crown on his own head. This act sent a clear message: I do not wait for permission. Remember this sentence: I create my own authority. The ceremony was grand. The world watched. Some admired him. Some were shocked. A man born poor, from a small island, now Emperor of France. Inside, Napoleon felt confirmed. His belief in destiny became absolute. He was no longer rising, he was at the top. But something changed at that moment. When a man reaches the peak, the fear of falling begins. Napoleon needed more victories, more control, more proof. Power was no longer a tool, it was part of his identity. And the story was far from over. Useful phrases. I take responsibility. I do not wait for permission. I create order. People trust strength. I want more. Part 4. The need for more. Reaching the top did not bring peace. It brought pressure. Napoleon was now emperor, but being emperor was not enough. Power did not calm him. It pushed him forward. He believed that to stay strong, he had to keep moving, to keep winning, to keep expanding. A dangerous thought guided him. Stopping means losing. Napoleon looked at Europe and saw threats everywhere. Kings did not trust him. Old empires feared his ideas. He believed that the only way to protect France was to control others. War became his language. Expansion became his habit. He did not wait for enemies to attack. He attacked first. A useful sentence fits here. I strike before I am struck. His armies moved across Europe. Country after country fell. Battles were fast and brutal. Napoleon was confident, too confident. He trusted his instincts more than advice. He believed he could outthink anyone, and for a long time he was right. Victory followed victory. His name became a symbol of fear and admiration. But success has a hidden cost. Each win made Napoleon less patient, less careful. He started to believe he could not fail. When someone warned him, he ignored them. When reality pushed back, he pushed harder. This is where greatness begins to crack. Remember this phrase: success can blind judgment. The biggest mistake came from ambition without limits. Napoleon decided to invade Russia. The land was vast. The weather was harsh. The distances were endless. Many advised against it. Napoleon did not listen. He believed numbers and strategy were enough. He believed his will was stronger than nature. I underestimate nothing, but he did. The campaign was a disaster. The enemy retreated. Supplies disappeared. Winter arrived. Soldiers froze. Hunger spread. The army that once felt unstoppable began to collapse. Napoleon watched power slip through his fingers. This was not just a military loss, it was a psychological one. For the first time, Napoleon faced something he could not control: nature, distance, time. The myth of invincibility cracked. Enemies across Europe saw weakness. The world was changing again, and this time it was not in his favor. Napoleon still stood, but the ground under him was breaking. The need for more had pushed him too far, and now the fall was no longer a question of if, only when. Useful phrases. I need to keep winning. I strike first. I trust myself. Success blinds me. I go too far. Defeat changed everything. After the disaster in Russia, the world no longer looked at Napoleon the same way. Enemies who once feared him now saw weakness. Old alliances broke. New armies formed. Europe moved against him together. Napoleon was still emperor, but the ground under his power was no longer solid. A hard truth appeared. Power fades when fear disappears. Battles followed, but they were different now. His army was smaller. His soldiers were tired. Resources were limited. Napoleon still believed in victory, but reality was pushing back. He fought with the same energy, but the world had changed. His enemies learned from him. They used his own methods against him. A useful sentence fits here. Others learn from my mistakes. Losses became more frequent. Cities fell. Support disappeared. Even inside France, trust weakened. People wanted peace more than glory. Napoleon felt the pressure from all sides. For the first time in years, he was reacting instead of leading. This shift mattered. Remember this phrase, "When I react, I lose control." In 1814, the moment came. Napoleon was forced to give up his throne. He abdicated. The crown was gone. The power was gone. The crowds were silent. He was sent into exile to a small island called Elba. From ruler of Europe to ruler of nothing, the contrast was brutal. A man who once controlled armies now walked alone. Exile is not only physical, it is mental. Napoleon had time to think, time to remember victories, time to feel regret. But his ambition was not dead, it was wounded, and wounded ambition is dangerous. He watched Europe from afar and believed he still had a role to play. A strong thought stayed alive. I am not finished. And he was right. In 1815, Napoleon escaped Elba and returned to France. Soldiers joined him again. The legend woke up. For a brief moment, it felt like the past was returning. This period became known as the 100 Days, but the world was ready this time. His final defeat came at Waterloo. After this loss, there was no return. Napoleon was sent far away, to a remote island called St. Helena. No armies, no politics, no second chance, just distance and silence. The man who once shaped Europe was now alone with his thoughts. His fall was complete, but his story was not over yet. Useful phrases. I lose support. Others learn from me. I react instead of lead. I am forced to leave. I am not finished. The man and the myth. Napoleon lived his final years far from power, far from Europe, far from the noise of history. On the island of St. Helena, there were no armies to command and no crowds to impress. There was only time. Time to remember, time to think, time to face himself. For a man who lived through action, this was the hardest battle. His days became slow and repetitive. He walked, he read, he talked about the past. He spoke of victories more than defeats. Inside, he still believed in his greatness. He did not see himself as a failure. He saw himself as a man stopped by fate. A useful thought fits here. I lost, but I was great. Napoleon understood something important. Power disappears, but stories remain. He carefully shaped how people would remember him. He talked about his life as destiny, as inevitability, as something larger than one man. This was his final strategy, not on the battlefield, but in memory. Remember this phrase: history remembers the story, not the moment. When Napoleon died in 1821, the world reacted slowly. But over time, his name grew bigger, not smaller. Books were written, paintings were made. His life became legend. People argued about him. Some saw a hero, some saw a tyrant, but no one ignored him. And that is power of a different kind. Napoleon showed the world something uncomfortable. A single person can change history. Not always for the better, not always for the worse, but forever. His life was proof that ambition can lift a man from nothing to everything, and also destroy him. This story does not end with a crown or a prison. It ends with a question. Was Napoleon a genius or a warning? History does not answer clearly. It only remembers. Useful phrases. I face myself. Power does not last. Stories remain. History remembers. I leave a legacy. Napoleon lost his empire, but he never lost his place in history. On our channel, you can find documentary stories about other fascinating figures from history, people who changed the world, influenced millions of lives, and left a mark that is still discussed today. We tell these stories in simple English, in a calm and clear way, so you can learn history and improve your English at the same time. Thanks! Please subscribe and like. Spin a new yarn with us every week. See you there!